on December 12th. It's the full moon in Gemini. So we know with this full moon, it's the last one of this year. It's the last one of the decade. So you could even go as far back as to 10 years ago and looking at what intentions you had set for your life, or what dreams or goals you had set for your life 10 years ago, and how many of those you have accomplished up to this point. Now, approaching it this way, the purpose of it isn't to beat yourself up and being like, oh, 10 years ago, I thought I was going to be here and look at my life now. No, we're not going into it with that energy. It's more or less looking at it from a very grounded, practical stance of what it is that you set out to do and what you have accomplished, have not, and really looking intently at the whys, right? Another thing that's important is looking at patterns, and most specifically negative patterns, because the purpose of the spread that I'm doing is just really to work as a prompt for you guys, because this is a lot of exercises that should be done in a self-reflective sense, because we can watch readings and we can get insight into things, but you don't ever want external stimuli, be it a person, a reading, or anything, to overpower your intuition. And the whole key of this full moon is really tapping into your intuition, because we all possess all of the answers that we seek. It's just sometimes, we need a little help depending on what it is we're going through. But what's of utmost importance, and the prompt that these cards act as, is giving you insight into what it is that your intuition has been telling you. So in other words, this is more or less confirmation. I shouldn't be telling you anything that you're completely oblivious to, like, what, that's going on? Like, no. This should kind of be like, I kept thinking that. That's what this reading is to act as. It's just kind of like a trigger to give you insight into what it is that your intuition is already telling you. What I've talked to a lot of you about in the comments or on the community tab, in my Patreon, a lot of people have been dealing with kind of like a not knowing. So if we were to put it in tarot card lingo, we're talking about like the moon card. So a lot of people have been in a place where I don't really know what's going on. I'm kind of confused. I'm lost. There's darkness. Well, the darkness ends on the full moon. So what is being revealed, what's going to be made clear to all of us, what's going to be made manifest is within the last month, within the last year, or within the last 10 years, what repeated patterns that we've all had a hand in, because this isn't anything that's external. What's going to be revealed is going to be the hand that we have in the continuation of these patterns that are preventing us from achieving the things that we're aspiring to achieve. It's using your mind as a tool to execute a solution for what has been revealed to you the problem is. It is something that you have the resources or the ability to overcome. That's why I stress the importance of the mindset, because now is not a time to feel sorry for oneself. Because when you're feeling sorry for yourself, you're completely disempowered and you're giving your power away to the situation. In essence, what we're doing is a 9-card spread, but each individual card is based on the pathology paths. So for those of you who don't know, this is the little grid that we used for pathology, but the most simplest way to understand it in zodiac signs, and each of them aligned to one of the 9 pathology paths. But that's just so you know what group you fall into. Now, the why I was led to do it that way was because, with our zodiac signs and the different placements in our chart and so on and so forth, it's kind of, it's broad, it's more general, it's kind of hit or miss. And it's like, what part of my life is this about? But why I was led to use pathology is because each of those are based on your actual path, in so many words, in life. Each of the archetypes are what it is that you're aspiring to. That aligns with the full moon and what all of this is about. So we're going to go ahead and lay these cards out. I'm going to relay each card that comes out for each group, and I'm definitely going to look at this list because I know I will probably get them out of order, so we don't pull what I did with Virgo in the recap. And Then I'm going to read the whole spread collectively. So we're going to ask Spirit to give us clear and direct guidance for all of my subbies, please. Spirit, for the full moon, anything they need to know, anything of utmost importance. Any additional revelations you can give them in reference to things that they need to surrender in December or patterns that they need to end, anything that they need to let go of. And as always, I thank you in advance, Spirit, because I know you're good for it and whatnot or whatever. Oh man, new cards. They're not the easiest thing to shuffle in America. I always hurt my hands when I get new cards. Yeah, come on, Dagnabbit. You suckers slippery and stuff. And I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see all of these. Okie dokie, lemon chokey. So let's see. For, can I call y'all group? I'm just going to say path. Path 1. And that's for the alchemist. I know those of y'all who know about pathology, y'all are slick side bucked up right now. We have the 8 of Pentacles in the reverse. For path 2, the seer, we have the 6 of Swords in the reverse. For path 3, the goddess, we have the Page of Cups in reverse. For path 4, the demigod, we have the 6 of Wands in the reverse. I love how all of these are reversed. It's fascinating. For the 5th path of the guru, we have the 9 of Pentacles. For the 6th path of the wounded healer, I told you I was going to have to look. We have the 10 of Cups. For the 7th path of the mastermind, we have the 5. Oh God, can y'all see it? Oh goodness gracious. I don't know if you can see it. The 5 of Pentacles in the reverse. For the 8th path of the sacred rebel, we have the Temperance in reverse. And for the 9th path of the sage, it's pretty badass, we have the King of Swords. This is fascinating. Okay, so let's see. Starting from my path 1, people of the alchemist, with the 8 of Pentacles in the reverse. And this is, however, this applies to your life. I'm more or less seeing this as the repeated pattern or issue that's continuously showing up for you all. For my alchemist people, I feel that it's either related to work, right? Whether it's feeling blocked in your career path, feeling blocked in your creativity, like a project that you guys could be working on, or it could simply just be not taking action on it, right? Another thing that I'm seeing with this is it very well could be that, and I'm making sure I tread lightly when I say this, because if I say it the wrong way, it could be misconstrued. So I want to be clear on how I'm conveying it. If there's something that y'all have been working on, and whether this is a project, whether this is a relationship, whether it's your finances, we're talking about something for, and I'm not going to say the last month, because a month is not a long enough amount of time. If we say for the last year or the last 10 years, and this is finances, this is career, creative projects, relationships with path 1 people. If you guys have put your all into something, and when I say your all, like I mean wholeheartedly your all, not just the, the superficial thought of like, I've put my all into this. So if you're working for a company and you come to work every day on time, you do your job above and beyond, and for the last 10 years, you've been working to get a promotion, and people that clearly do not, there's a little nepotism going on, or people that you see are in the inner circle and clearly aren't as hardworking and dedicated as you are getting promoted before you, and it's been 10 years, and I'm not saying this literally, but I mean, I'm saying 10 years in the sense of realistically, if you've worked at a company for 10 years, by now there should be some sense of upward advancement, right? That's why I wouldn't even use that example with being at a company for a year, because you can be promoted within a year, but realistically, no. But with my group 1 people, it would have to be something where it's exacerbated at this point. You have, shown up, done it to the 110th power, and there's still yet to be any fruit. And now it's to the point where you're feeling blocked and drained and lifeless and unfulfilled despite what it is that you're doing. Now it's time to really sit back and ask if you guys are in the right place, if you guys are in the right relationship, right? If it comes to your finances, if there's been goals that have been set, or things that you guys have aspired to, and it's the realization that you're not where it is that you thought you would be, whether a year prior to this or 10 years prior to this, there's a need to really look at how much time, energy, effort, work, and mastery you've put into whatever this thing is. So if we're talking about finances, it's like if 10 years ago you said you wanted to purchase a home, it's like realistically, tangibly, and practically, how much time, energy, and effort have you put into putting yourself in a position to purchase a home? Because like I said, the way forward is a very practical one. And it's very much in alignment with the term that I talk about when we use the dice that have no name, when I talk about intuitive intellectualism. That's a term I use to describe my approach to life, my methodology towards life. It's taking this high spiritual wisdom, that's not of this world, right? And it's applying it to this world. So it's birthing spirit into very practical action steps. And that's the thing that I'm seeing that's needed with you guys, if what it is that you've worked towards has not manifested as of yet. And I still feel the need to stress with you guys of how it's like, I work so hard and I put so much into this. The only person who would be able to co-sign that would be the self. It's like, and that's why I say it's not a superficial understanding of just like, because I've put so much into this. It's like, have you really? So it would require self-honesty. Have you really? And that's like for both of those approaches, like whether it's, relationships, money, whatever. It's like, have you really put in that much work? Have you really fully dedicated yourself to this? Have you fully put in mastery? Have you fully mastered your finances? Have you really, mastered yourself in order to be in a healthy relationship? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, have you been really putting work into it, not on a superficial level? Those are the questions that need to be asked of oneself. Now, if the answer to that is yes, then now we look externally and we have to say, why am I still here? If it's been an extended period of time that you've been investing into this and you're putting more into it than it's giving back to you, now it's time to really consider if, our method needs to change, what we're investing into needs to change, right? Now, for my path 2 people, my seers, we have the 6 of Swords in the reverse. If I could pick it up, let me use my broke nail. Come on, broke nail. Help a sister out. Thank you. So with the 6 of Swords, the thing that I'm seeing for you guys, it just got heavy. Thanks, seers. That's the group that I'm in. But for my seer path, the thing I'm seeing with y'all is it's a mindset. And this ain't no new mindset. So this ain't no 1 month 1 year type of thing. I mean, I could say it's 1 year if it's new information that distorted your process on things. But I would say for my path 2 people, you're being guided and carried by spirit, because I feel that what you guys are battling with is the self. I feel that the battle that's really going on with my path 2 people is very much in the mindset. So the positivity that I can tell you is, whether it's, because I'm seeing that a couple of different ways, whether it's because of like things are working in your favor now just because it's like energetically your season, or if it has something to do with your birth chart, because that's the first thing I saw. It's like things are shifting and changing for people who are on path 2 because it's something outside of yourself. But I mean, technically your birth chart is within yourself, but first thing I saw was a birth chart. So it's just kind of like there's certain things in life that are just like fated for you to experience. So I feel like you guys are going to a place that's beneficial for you because you're being guided by spirit in 2 senses, whether it's environmentally, so things are shifting environmentally, and then the inspiration underlying it is very much spiritually influenced. But I'm seeing group 2 in the middle of these 2, not extremes, but energetic influences, so to speak. And it's like not being able to see that this is happening or not believing that this is happening for them because the mindset is a prison. And I feel in so many words why one is being guided, why one is being, well, I'm not even going to say why, because it's not like, I feel like I really have to clarify these things. It's not that this is happening because you're in a mental prison, because at the heart of it, that's what it is for me. It's a negative perception on one's life, oneself, and one's experience that group 2 is struggling with. But I'm not inferring that spirit is rescuing you from your mental prison, because that's still very much your responsibility because it's a mindset, right? So regardless of how it is that it got there, it's a perception one has on life that one elects every day to align with and to see through. And it's one that needs to be deconstructed, because where this can become a bigger problem is, despite the spiritual influences are being led by spirit, if one does not get out of the mindset, you will continue to manifest that mindset even when the external environment is in direct opposition to how it is that you're seeing things. So it's almost like you can be blessed with something you've been praying for and not recognizing it as a blessing because one's mindset is seeing it as a curse, if that's making sense. So what's important for my path 2 people is to take a look back at the last year, at the last 10 years. And this is going to be funny how I'm about to explain this. Look at what it is that you set out to do. And I mean, y'all can even look at the last month too. So if you look at intentions that you set last month, right? So the last month, the last year, the last 10 years. Look at all of the goals that you set, right? Look at all of the goals that you've achieved. Look at all of the ones that you have not achieved up to this point, and write down next to it why you believe that you did not achieve that specific thing, right? Now, if any of your whys has anything to do with other people, other situations, other circumstances, like this person, and this is hypothetical, but this person hurt my feelings, and I was so sad because of what they did to me. I just could not get around to managing my finances because I was so upset. It's like we could perceive this as, wow, yeah, that is really jacked up. They did that to you. And how is it that you could focus on your finances going through all of that? I totally understand, right? And that's true. But if we do that in one instance, we can continue that behavior into another, right? So now it becomes every time I don't do for myself, if someone hurt my feelings, says something that I didn't like and it made me sad, it's like, that's the reason why I didn't do it. And that would be also the reason why things are still not getting done moving forward, right? So the key is here is not disempowering yourself to the situation. It's seeing how you can gain authority within the situation. So it's looking at how could I have handled that differently? So granted, yes, that is how you handled it during that time, but how could you have handled that differently? How can I take how I could have handled that differently and apply it to my life now? So when I find myself in a similar circumstance, how can I apply that better way of approaching this situation than I did in the past, if that's making sense? So I'm feeling with my path to people, this has a great deal to do with mental energy and one's thoughts about one's experiences. And the key is bringing that into your awareness, how it is that you're perceiving things, or whether you're coming from an empowered or disempowered place. Because like I said, if you continue to come from a disempowered place of how you're judging your experience, regardless of what comes into your life, you're always going to find it to be disempowering, right? Now, for my path 3 people, you guys have I cannot pick these cards up, the Page of Cups in the reverse. And my path 3 people are my goddesses. You're a dude, you can still be a goddess. I'm just saying, it's just an archetype. So with the Page of Cups in the reverse, the thing that I'm seeing with you guys, it's a lack of inspiration. Whew. I like how I be thinking it's going to be light, and then all of a sudden I just get hit, and it's like, ooh, dang, okay. It's a lack of inspiration. It's a lack of creativity. And then for others of you, it's ideas and inspirations that you've received that you're not acting on. But I feel the reason for this is it's a level of emotional block, and specifically heart chakra oriented emotional block. It's a level of one being closed off because of some sense of wounding that has occurred, and that could literally be within the last month, within the last year, or within the last 10 years. I would say for those where it was a wounding that happened 10 years or more ago, that group of people is teetering on hard-heartedness, right? And cynicism, pessimism, things of the sort. So it's difficult for one to be moved or inspired or encouraged or receive encouragement because one is not receptive to receiving. And what was this? I don't remember where I said that. I pulled a card on that and it was talking something about receptivity. I don't even remember what that was. I don't even know if that was a reading that I did for the channel. That might have been for someone in real life. I think that was for somebody in real life. Well, whatever the case may be, it's a card that I pulled and it was talking about receiving. So it's similar to my path to people in the sense that for them it's external, where your situation changes, but mentally you're not able to see that because it's like seeing the negative in things. For my path 3 people, it feels very much like if a person, and this is hypothetical, if, you were wounded in a past relationship and a new love interest came into your life, and, this person wasn't a terrible person. It's more or less not wanting to let that person in, or even friendships, is not wanting to let friendships in or allow yourself to be vulnerable, because it's knowing what that wounding was like in the past and not wanting to experience that again. So it's electing to completely close yourself off to such of an experience. Now, even in the sense, if that was something emotional that happened, that emotionally wounded you, that's still affecting one's creativity. So I'm seeing this more or less when it comes to inspiration from spirit. So even like the revelations that I was talking about coming with the full moon, it's a thought of a person who would deny that. Or if you got a really great idea to write a book or something like that, it's either being completely closed off from your intuition or receiving intuitive messages and denying them because of one not being open to receive at all. And I'm not saying that's for the whole group of you, but that would fall more for people who are all the way on the scale where you've been holding anger, bitterness, resentment, and unforgiveness for like a decade against someone. You know what I mean? And holding on to that for so long, it inadvertently hardens a person's heart. But I'm not saying that everybody is in that case to where you've been carrying resentment for that long. The whole premise of this is to bring to light the fact that one, being emotionally closed off is not just closing you off from other people, it's closing you off from spirit and also closing you off from your intuition, right? So I would say clearly for you guys, the work that's going to be done is in reconnecting to yourself, reconnecting to your emotions, or reconnecting to spirit, because I feel like your intuition is more or less a byproduct of one's connection with spirit. So I wouldn't even just say like reconnecting to your intuition, because there's a liaison that is preventing that, and it's more or less reducing down solely into mental energy in so many words. So that could be the revelation that you guys get during the full moon, or maybe you just got it from me and you're co-signing it. Like, I kind of felt like that's what was going on. But for my group, I'm about to say group, I feel like I'm doing an extended. My path 4 people, the demigods, you guys have the 6 of Wands in the reverse. And what I feel for you guys, my wonderful demigods, y'all don't feel very demigod-like. It's almost as if it's a feeling of being at the will of one's experience and not having seen up to this point the accolades you desire, the success you desire, the appreciation that you desire, or just feeling almost as if the wind is being taken out of your sails and whatever it is that you guys are working towards. I feel for you all, not really so much on, well, if it was since last month, and you guys feel like you haven't seen success in the last month, and something that you guys have been working towards, I would say there needs to be more time, right? There needs to be more effort that is put in over a course of time, because I feel for those who just started something last month, it's kind of, you're expecting results a little too soon, you know? But I feel like that's for a small number of y'all, where, because I think the impression I'm getting from this is the mindset that this small group would have within my path 4 people was, you were inspired to do something, you got a really great idea to do something, or, you know, a whole bunch of people were kind of rallying behind you to do something, or I just heard you put a book out, and within the last month, it didn't do so well. But the main specific thing that I'm being told to drive home here is that this small group of people within Path 4 that I'm talking to, they were under the impression, because they were divinely inspired, or because a large group of people believed in them and pushed them to kind of jump out and do this, that they thought it would be like an instantaneous result. So it's like, if we go with the whole book thing, it's like, I know that spirit guided me to write this book, right? So it was this thought that as soon as I put it out, like first day, I'm selling 10,000 copies. And it hasn't. So it's this belief of thinking that you failed, but you didn't. It's just more time needs to pass. It's not to say that what you felt led to do or the idea that you had wasn't on point. It's just, I don't know. And that's why I say it's a small group of people that I'm talking about. The thing I heard is it was the expectation of being an overnight success. And because one wasn't an overnight success, it's feeling as if one was a failure. But I always say that in instances where people seem to be overnight successes, there's usually probably about 10 to 15 years of work that led up to that one time that this person did something and got recognized for it. So it's just the thought of, to not feel discouraged, to not feel like, you followed the wrong path, so to speak, or you did the wrong thing. It's just more time needs to pass. And that's for people who've just literally done something within the last month. And then I'm hearing something else. This is so adorable. I love Path 4. this is even for someone who started working out a month ago. And it's like, I don't see any results. And it's thinking like it failed. And it's like, you've only been doing this for a month, or you just changed your eating habits a month ago, or you just quit smoking a month ago. And it's like, you're not seeing any change. And it's like more time needs to pass, so to speak. Because I almost feel like it's a need to see some type of like a result, or be noticed for it as like a personal validation type of thing. And if that's the case, it's the deeper issue. It's not that you haven't received the validation. The deeper issue that one would need to dig into is why it is you feel you need the validation, if that makes sense. And that's really what it would be that would be being highlighted. For others of you, when it comes to like those of you where this has been a year, or in the last 10 years, I would piggyback off of what we talked about for Path 1 people, for the alchemists. It's a need to really reevaluate if the time, energy, and effort that you've put in, have you really put in as much as you think that you have, right? Or are you putting that time, energy, and effort into the right place? If it's been over, a year or a whole 10 years that you've been doing the same thing, and it's a lack thereof of success in it, it's time to reevaluate it. And then another thing that's coming up is one of the questions that I asked in the November recap, which was, what is your definition of success? Because another way that I could see this, that I think is important to take into account when you guys are looking back on what it is you feel like you failed at, is more or less taking into account what your definition of success is. Because the truth is, similar to Path 2 people, is that you very well could be successful, but it's just the rule that you're using to measure success by may be one that makes you feel like success is being recognized. Like I said, external validation, feeling like you need other people's kudos, or if you sold, 100 books as opposed to 10,000, it's like, is it that you feel like a failure because you didn't sell 10,000? Well, why is it that we don't feel that the 100 is a success? You know what I mean? So it's more or less for my Path 4 people, the demigods, it's a perception thing that I feel needs to be taken into account. And that's only if you guys, for those of you who feel that you have really done 110 into the direction of this, and you still don't feel as if you're successful, the two things to take into account, if you guys have put in, the work and mastery and things of the sort, is if your definition of success needs to be kind of re-identified, or if it's that you were either doing this or the intention was in hopes of getting some sense of external validation. So that really would fall into the category of values, like what we value in life from the external world, and our intention, and how we define success in so many words. I hope that makes sense. Now, for my Path 5 people, the gurus, you guys have, okay, if I could pick it up any day now. Okay, let me use the broke nail. Come on. All right. The broke nail is doing me good tonight. We have the 9 of Pentacles upright for you guys. So the thing that I feel for my Path 5 people, and this, I love how this keeps happening. I'm just like, oh, this is light. Oh, never mind. I mean, it's not like it's bad or anything, but for my Path 5 people, I feel that you guys are working towards something, and it's similar to group 4 in energetic essence, in the sense of there's a need to get very clear on your intentions behind your doings, right? And it's a couple of ways that I can see this, and I just heard Virgo. That's weird. Okay, fascinating. it's a couple of ways that I'm seeing this, so bear with me as I kind of unwind this. There's some people with empath 5 where it's being too concerned or invested. Okay, now I understand why I heard Virgo, because I've talked about this with Virgo before. So if you are a Virgo, then yes, I'm talking to you with this particular one. But it's too much energy that's being put into how stuff looks and not what it is. And the thing that I keep seeing, and I used this example with Virgo eons ago, but it's, if you think about a movie set and how you see like a house on a movie set and the house looks like a regular house, but if you were to open the door and walk inside, it's like, it's just the front facade of a house that's being held up by like 2x4s, you know what I mean? That's holding up the facade solely for filming purposes. But, you know, you can't inhabit the house, you can't live there, there's no rooms, it's just there for an establishing shot, in so many words. So I'm seeing that as a symbol of the life that somebody would be building up. Another way that this could translate to would be how one perceives themselves like on social media, right? So it's like on Instagram, it's projecting like a life, like this is me, I do this stuff, and this is the kind of person that I am, and this is, you know, whatever. So it's putting out this image to the world, but behind the scenes, no one, like the person's life is nowhere near in alignment with what it is that's being projected to the external world. Now, that would be the thing that's being revealed. And again, the purpose of why this would be being revealed under this energy is not, it's like, oh, let's expose you. You know what I'm saying? Spirit being like, ha, look at this. No, it's not anything that's self-deprecating. The whole purpose that would be revealed is kind of showing you, like, is this the kind of life that you really want to live? It's like, do you want to project to the world that you live this kind of life, or would you rather actually live that kind of life? You know what I mean? Because after a while, it ends up becoming trying to keep up with a false version of yourself. And that starts to inadvertently close you off from people, because you can't let people too close, because if people end up finding out what it is that, you know, you're projecting to the world isn't the same thing as what it is that you're living, then that's a form of like self-imposed isolation over time. Another way that this could manifest is as pride. So, you know, wanting to project to friends, family members, people that you know that everything is okay and it's really not. You know what I mean? And it would be needing to explore the deeper elements of that. For others of you, there's an aspiration to be financially independent, to be self-reliant, for the things that you're investing in to be fruitful. But the thing that I feel, because I'm seeing it like a gap between the two, for that group of people to where you're not here yet, but this is what you aspire to, there's a need to be really realistic about what it's going to take to get there. And again, not in a sense to discourage you, but it's to be realistic about what it's going to take. So, I mean, if we literally use the chick in the card as an example, if you say like, I want to have a community garden, right? And it's like, that's what I aspire to. It's like, okay, how are you going to do that? And then I'm hearing now for some of you guys who have aspired to be financially independent, or, you know, to fulfill some dream or something of the sort within the last year or within the last 10 years, and it hasn't come to pass, this message would be for them too. So if you look at what goals you've set and the goals that you have not set up to this point, the thing that's missing, or what you would have to clarify as to why, is in the beginning, did you start out with a plan, right? You have the desire, you have the idea, but what is the plan to execute it, right? So if you want to start a community garden, and that's a really great aspiration that could benefit yourself as well as others, right? It's like, do you have a property to start a community garden? Like, do you have a place in your neighborhood that would be a great site for it? Did you do the research on the permits that it is that you need? Do you know anything about gardening? Right? First and foremost. What kind of, so if you get all of that out of the way, the logistics, it's like then we're talking about the land. Are we looking at the soil? Is it good soil? What kind of fruits and vegetables do you want to plant in the garden? You know what I mean? And then going back to, do you know about gardening? Do you need to reach out to someone who does? Do you plan on doing this yourself? How are you going to rally other people around it? And you starting now, it's like, how do you want this to grow within the next, year? What are your intentions for doing this in the first place? Like, these are all things that you would want to be aware of. So it's like, we can have dreams about things. We can hope for things. But if we never take practical, tangible action steps in the direction of them, or start putting together the building blocks in the direction of them, this will be just a dream and a hope that we have for years to come, because there's no action that's being taken in the direction of it. So I'm feeling, however it is that flies for my Path 5 people, that's what I feel is going to be revealed for you all. So for one group of you, it's rechecking your intentions of the why it is that you're doing what you're doing, or why you're presenting the way that you're presenting. And then for the other group of you who are aspiring to, independence or financial independence, however, it's, do you have a plan to actually get there? And has the reason why you haven't made it there up to this point been because there's been a lack of planning, right? Now, for my Path 6 people, the wounded healers, this is so fascinating. Whew, this is going to be interesting. So, I feel for my Path 6 people, and this is very interesting, this feels very much ideal oriented to me, but I feel for you guys, it's either, if you never had kids, right, and you desire to like be a parent, or if you desire to be married or something like that. For the first group of you, the thing that I'm feeling here is needing, similar to how it was with Path 5 here, is rechecking your intentions. Because the thing that's really screaming out to me here would be a group within this path where it's putting too much weight on either what could have been or what it is you're daydreaming about. And meaning this in a sense of, like, if it's a person, whether it's both or just one. And I'm using this as an example to kind of describe what I'm seeing here so I don't confuse y'all too much. But it doesn't have to specifically be a relationship per se. But it's something, an ideal state that's being projected into the future. And one spends more time either daydreaming about this ideal future state of being, or family, kids, whatever, or one spends way too much time focusing on what could have been with something they experienced past tense. So that would be like, if like someone you dated in high school, y'all were together and you had all of these plans to get married and buy a house on this particular street and have 2 kids, and you were going to name them blah, 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 right? And y'all were going to have this kind of wedding and so on and so forth. And you guys end up breaking up, I don't know, 2-3 years into college, you guys break up. And it's like not just grieving the breakup in the present tense, but still continuing over the last year or the last 10 years or within the last 10 years to grieve over what could have been in the future, right? And the reason why these 2 things that are coming to me first are of utmost importance is because that is the illusion of why one could never, it's an illusion that one is losing their potential for present happiness too. But it's 2 different ways it's manifesting. For the first group of people, it's more or less, I don't have this in the present, but it's spending a lot of time of like, I wish I was a dad, or I wish I was a mom, or It would be so great to know what it's like to have a partner. And oh, look at those families. That's so great. And this and da da da. And now again, because I feel like I'm hitting trigger points for different people with different groups. And that's why like I keep jumping in and saying this. It's like none of this stuff is being said to drill this in your face or to, inspire you to go into a self-pity party of self-deprecation and misery and woe. It's to bring to one's attention a pattern of thought, behavior, or emotions that has been preventing you from the very thing that you desire. And that's for all 9 paths. So the way that each path has been approaching things up to this point has been preventing you from your happiness, right? So none of it is really like a negative thing to say like, oh, you still don't have blah, blah, blah. So that's the whole thing. So for some of you, it's, what could have been. For others of you, it's what you wish was that isn't. But the whole key of where it ends up becoming an illusion is because all of the power that you have to create the 10 of Cups, it lies in the present moment. So if we spend our time dwelling on the past and projecting the sorrows of the past into the future, or if we spend all of our time of what we wish could be in the future, you're completely neglecting the present moment of which you possess the power to actually do something about it. So it's a lot of, aspiring, dreaming, hoping, and not doing. So if, like with the Path 5 people, if the 10 of Cups, your whole emotional fulfillment is an aspiration for you, again, going back to 3D practical, tangible action steps, what can you do today in the direction of what it is that you desire? It's beautiful to have a vision because this is how I manifest. It's how I've manifested my whole life. And that's literally how I set my goals. It's like I've been on a journey of manifesting a vision I saw when I was a kid all the way until my adulthood. And literally everything I've accomplished in my life has been the, like little bitty steps that Spirit's like, do this, do this, do this. And I'm like, cool. So it's like I do that and it's like, oh, okay, it's another step. So the whole thing is vision is important. What you desire and what you're aspiring to is important, but because that becomes your light in the times of when you get discouraged or when you're in darkness. It's like I always say that whenever you get lost on your path, always go back to the last thing it is that God told you, and that's going to light your path again if you ever forget what you're doing. So having an aspiration is important. But the thing is, you keep that top of mind, but don't spend your energy there because that ain't going to get no closer unless you're doing something now in the direction of that, right? Another thing is for the other group of people where it's a past woe that you're projecting into the future of what could have been. It's like you're torturing yourself and putting yourself in the position to where you can just keep replicating that. So there's a need to release that, right? And channel that energy in service to you, right? So there's a need of acceptance with that. So if there's a something that, ended, it's a need to accept that ending and to create a new dream. You know what I mean? To create a new dream and to take the effort in the direction of that new dream as opposed to keeping yourself chained to the past, because the whole present moment thing is the important thing to note here. Because this will always be like, and it's making me think of the seven of Cups. It will always be this disillusioned, thing in a thought space and stuff. And it's never going to be tangible if you don't actually take the action towards it. You know what I mean? And then another thing I have to say, if this is explicitly related to relationships, this is going to fall however it falls. You have to keep in mind the fact that you don't have control over another human being outside yourself. So if your happiness in a future tense is contingent upon another person doing or not doing something, so that means if a person does or does not do something, then your whole dream falls apart, then that dream is built on a faulty foundation. Because if your personal happiness or well-being, again, in a future sense, is contingent upon another person, that's already a plan to fail. Because your personal, like when we talk about the 10 of Cups, like, yeah, they have a family and stuff on it. but it's symbolic. The whole thing is when you talk about full-on emotional fulfillment, that's something that has to be cultivated with an individual prior to you including external mediums, because external mediums, that's not a guarantee. You know what I mean? Life is temporary. Like literally, our life in a body is temporary. So if your fulfillment is contingent upon a person outside of yourself, then that means that if that person, like something happens to them, if they're not here, that means you're no longer fulfilled, which means, again, a state of being disempowered, right? So getting clear on what it is that true happiness and fulfillment is to you in a singular sense, and taking the steps to get there, right? Now, for my Path 7 people, the masterminds, you guys have the Five of Pentacles in the reverse. And the thing I'm feeling with you, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, y'all. I just saw my eyelash. Is my eyelash moving? Don't judge me. This is real life right now. Anyway, with the Five of Pentacles in the reverse, I'm feeling with you guys, if there's any level of feeling sorry for yourself, or if you're just flat out not happy with your present circumstance, the thing that I feel is going to be revealed to y'all is just how much power and control that you have, no matter how vast or how small in this situation. Even if it's something as simple as just your thought space, the whole thing is going to be like personal responsibility with this situation. So even if it was something, external to y'all, and I'm saying that if this is something that's happened since last month, but even if we go to a longer range within the last year or within the last 10 years, for some of you is needing to look at past successes, like how you've overcome certain disparaging situations in the past. So it's a need to pull from that strength, or looking back to how far you've made it up to this point. And then for others of you, I'm seeing it like a consistent pattern of almost like every year, one always ends up ending where they began. And it's like being the odd man out, like not having anything to show for all that you've done. So for some of you and my Path 7 people, the energy I would feel that's the most heavy with y'all is that of finances. So it's like every year you have this plan to start saving for Christmas early, or, put the money aside for your Halloween costume earlier, buy people's birthday gifts early or something of the sort, or, by June having a certain amount of money in your bank account, or when you get your tax return, like actually investing the money instead of spending it. But I feel with you guys, where this is a financial thing, it's every year you always end up in the same place you were in before. So the thing I feel that's going to be highlighted for you guys is, because I feel like for these people that I'm talking to, it's not necessarily that you're not making enough money. It's just that you're not managing your finances properly. So it's not having a clear set. And man, this is all kinds of stuff that's coming up. Path 7 people, check the subscriptions that you're subscribed to. Like, look at your bank account and see how much is being taken out every month, because that's something that trips us all up. Is like, you could think of, you sign up for something and it's like, oh, like Spotify, it's like, oh, it's just $9 a month. That's nothing, But if you add up $9 a month for a year, it's like, you look at how much money that is, right? Or if you eat out every day, like you go buy your lunch out, right? If you add up how much money you spend every day eating lunch at work, or how much, your coffee from Starbucks is every morning for a week, and then for a month, it's like, that's a whole set amount of money that you're spending every month on this thing, right? Especially if it's like an edible. So it's not really something, and not that kind of edible, I mean something that's edible, but something that you are eating, right? That's not something you can hold on to at the end of the month. So I feel for you guys, it's more or less like, it's small steps that can be taken to reverse this. Because I think if you were to just look at it for face value, it's just like, oh, I just need to get a job where I make more money. And it's like, nah, it's like, first you need to kind of figure out what you could do with the money that you're making now. Like where you can kind of, cut corners. What luxuries are you spending money on that you could kind of cut back on? And another thing that I feel is important with this is like, similar to what I was saying, with Path 5. Is like a tangible action plan. It's like if your goal is to have $5,000 in your bank account, like in your savings by June, how do you plan to do that realistically, right? Like if you look at how much it is that you make every month, how much your bills are every month, how much would you need to sit aside for 6 months to get to $5,000? Is that a realistic goal? You know what I mean? Like based on what you earn and what your bills are, is that a realistic goal? And if it's not, then we might need to lower that a little bit, or increase our income. Is it something else that can we drive Uber and take all the money that we make from Uber and add that to what it is we're already saving? So the whole thing I'm saying is here for my Path 7 people, it's a practical approach to financial issues and looking at little things that are kind of taking away from you over time. For others of you, if it's not strictly financial, if you have a feeling where every year you're always ending where you began, whether that's emotionally, with your career goals, whatever, it's a need to take that same approach that I described with the finances to your life. It's to really look at what you're doing that's in service to the change you're trying to make, and then what's going against it. And then for you guys looking at the last month, the last year, the last 10 years, and looking at your goals overall between these time spans of where it is that you were, where it is you ideally want to be, and what we're doing every day within these time frames that we're leading to where it is you guys are desiring to go or are desiring to go. Now with my path 8, we have the Temperance card, but it's in the reverse. So with you guys, there's a couple of things here. First thing I feel that I need to tell did I not tell y'all what it was? The Sacred Rebels. My Path 8 is the Sacred Rebels. The first thing I need to tell my Path 8 people is understanding the true definition of what balance is. The biggest misconception many times that we're under about balance is thinking that balance is a state that we build our way up to, and it's like static. So you do all of this work to become balanced. Ooh, I have to stop this because I just got the alert that my disk is full. Oh my gosh, y'all, that scared me to death. I was like, no. When my computer does that, literally what I recorded will just go away. And since I had been talking for about an hour, I would have died a little inside if all of that would have went away. So I had to delete some stuff, so now we're back. So anywho, with my Sacred Rebel people, Path 8, the first thing I was saying with you guys is talking to you about balance. The importance of understanding what balance is. It's like many of us are under the misconception that balance is a static state, and it's not. It's not something that you do work to in a state to acquire and you just stay there, right? And I've said this before, but in order to obtain balance, it requires minor adjustments that we're making throughout the day. So if you think about it as driving a car, right? If you're on the interstate and you want to stay in your lane, you don't hold on to your steering wheel like this, right? And it's like, think that's going to make you stay straight, because even though it seems as though we're on a straight road, it's like the interstate is always curving and going up and down. So in order for you to stay in your lane, it's not you fixed holding your steering wheel. It's minor adjustments that you're making to the left and the right to maintain a state of balance within your lane. And so the same with maintaining balance in our life, in our character, in our actions, our behaviors, what have you. It's minor adjustments that we're making. So it's more or less, this is getting very systems oriented, but it's a feedback loop. So when you see that your car is starting to veer off to the left, it's like you're going to turn your wheel a little to the right to go back into the middle. And so the same, if you're veering off a little to the right, you're going to turn a little bit to the left. So it's the same with our patterns of behavior. When we're seeing in life that we're veering outside of our lane, there's a need to make a little bit of an adjustment into the other direction, so to speak, so that we can maintain balance. So I think that that's something important to note. And I feel it's more or less an encouraging thing for my Path 8 people, because I feel heavily for my Path 8 people, it's beating oneself up because of, what's the word I'm looking for? And this I don't mean this necessarily in the sense of like relapse, like with like drugs and alcohol and stuff. I mean, it could be, but with relapsing. So it's aspiring to change something about yourself or your life within the last month, within the last year, the last 10 years. It's different things that you've aspired to. But I feel that for my Path 8 people, my sacred rebels, you're expecting too much of yourself. So again, I love how all these piggyback off of each other. It's similar to people in the masterminds, Path 7. It's in the sense of like, the goal by June is to have $5,000 in your account. But we never took into account that we don't make enough money in a 6-month period with our bills to be able to save $5,000. But it's like when we get to June and we don't have it, we beat ourselves up, because the issue is here, and I'm feeling this for my Path 8 people. The issue that I feel is going to be revealed for you guys with the full moon is how the sense of imbalance or failure that you guys have is based not in the fact that you're not trying or that you're not putting effort in. It's the fact that from the very beginning, unrealistic expectations were set. And that's what the issue is. It's the fact that one fails from the beginning because they're holding themselves to a standard of behavior, of thinking, of being, accomplishing, acquiring, what have you, that is way completely outside of the realm of realistic possibility. So what we're really talking about with my Path 8 people is change. And that's something that I say to my clients a lot. Change is not the easiest thing in the world. It's the same thing like with losing weight. It's like, and that's the most common place that this ends up happening, is like, we're coming up on January and people, and I hate this time of the year, it's my personal pet peeve, we're not going to make this about me. When everybody and their mama goes to the gym in January. And then it's like, in the first week, people going to fall off, in the first month, and then like the first 3 to 6 months, people are going to fall off, and then everything in the gym goes back to normal until January comes again. But no one ever thinks, why is it that people don't stick with it? And it's because from the very beginning, people set unrealistic expectations with change. And they think because they don't meet these expectations that they're faulty, they're bad, they're never going to change. It's like, I didn't try hard enough. And it's not that. It's just holding yourself to a standard that just isn't possible. So the key is here with my Path 8 people is more or less your approach to things, your understanding of what balance is, and learning that whether it's changing anything in your life, that it's a work in progress, but I'm being told to note that it is a present work in progress. So as you're making changes, there's a need to be conscious, aware in the present moment, like you are when you're driving, so that you can notice when you're veering a little left and you're veering a little right. So in the present, you can make the adjustments that are needed for you to stay on course. So that's what I feel for you guys is going to be revealed and highlighted. So whether that's what needs to change, or if you already know what needs to change, it's how to apply that change and what mindsets need to shift, or how one's approach to these changes need to shift is what's going to be revealed for you guys. And lastly, my Path 9 people, my sages in this piece, who have the King of Swords. And I feel for you guys, which I think that this is funny, because in a typical 9-card spread, this would be like the outcome card in so many words. But I feel for you guys, my Path 9 people, rightfully so, my sages, you guys are embodying all of these energies in approach. Not to say that y'all got it all figured out. It's more or less saying that this is ending out this spread perfectly in the sense of how I spoke about intuitive intellectualism in the beginning. It's taking spiritual revelation and using the mind as a tool to channel it. That's everything that the King of Swords symbolizes. It's like that's how transformation occurs. So centralizing this just to you guys' path, I feel much like with those who are in path 2, this is a mind thing. So what's going to be revealed to you guys, oh gosh, scripture, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? What's going to be made clear to you guys under the full moon energy is how the biggest arch nemesis of you guys' process within the last, we could say month, the last year, the last 10 years has been your mental processes. And there's a need, taking a page out of the book of Path 7, the mastermind, there's a need to master your mind. There's a need to gain dominion over your thought process. You need to think about what it is that you're thinking about. So the thing that's revealed is how your thoughts can either be a help or a hindrance, and understanding that true transformation takes place in our mental space. It's despite, and going back to my group, my Path 2 people, is despite how our external circumstances change, that if our mind doesn't change, then we don't. So that completely nullifies what happens. So an example that I'm getting is like when a person wins the lottery, right? Or if a person becomes famous, why it is people can have all the money in the world, can be a celebrity, can have notoriety, and why they can still be miserable is because of the mind. So despite having money, despite having all of these great experiences, and that's the big illusion of humanity, is we think like, oh, my life sucks just because I'm poor. So if I had a whole bunch of money, I wouldn't be worried about nothing. Yeah, you think that, right? But it's almost like the day-to-day issues and problems that we have, survival, if we're so focused on surviving, more existential issues that we have can often be overlooked because we're focused on the mundane overcoming and struggles of every day. But so in the case of a person winning the lottery, if you all of a sudden have like, $1 billion, and the day-to-day, mundane struggle that's out of the picture, all of that stuff and issues and problems and, past trauma, all of that stuff comes to the surface. And that's why it's like they have all these horror stories, not saying everybody, but a lot of people end up winning the lottery, why they end up squandering the money and getting drug problems and file bankruptcy and all kinds of stuff like that, because the circumstances changed, but the person did not, right? So nothing external will ever be the solution to our inner issues. And that's the thing that's important to note for my sages. What's going to come to light is a process of judgment, perception, or a mindset, and I mean this in a sense of low vibrational, right? That has been a stumbling block, an arch nemesis, or an enemy that's preventing you guys from fully transforming yourselves or some area of your life. And it's important for you guys to note just how important the mind is. I don't know why I need to stress that so much, but that's important for me to stress. A lot of the reason why I include all of the stuff about psychology and all of that into my readings in general is for this reason. It's like how we're thinking is so vastly important. It doesn't even matter how much knowledge you have. You could have, extremely high IQ and like a shit ton of stuff that you know about a lot of stuff. But if your thoughts about yourself and life are negative, you know what I'm saying? Low vibrational, self-defeating, it nullifies all of that because it's having a bunch of knowledge, but it's lacking understanding. And in order for knowledge to become wisdom, the bridge is understanding, right? So it's not just knowing what you know, it's understanding what it is that you know so that you can be wise. And that's perfect. I didn't even intentionally do that like that, but now it's all poetic because you're the sage and y'all are supposed to be wise. So this is like giving y'all the little bridge over to being in your power. Isn't this awesome? But anywho, so that's what I have for my my sages. So the main thing that I'm seeing overall when we talk about the context of all of this, and this is what can be applied to the whole collective here in so many words, is taking into account what we've been putting work into, what we've been pouring into that's not pouring into us, is to recheck ourselves and taking into account that what it is that we're putting energy into should be feeding us. And if it's not, we also need to take into account if we're actually putting as much effort as we may think that we are, that we're under the illusion that we are, but that requires self-honesty. The other thing that's important here is being clear of our heart chakras and our emotions, not cutting ourselves off from our emotions, being honest with ourselves about what it is that we're feeling about things so that we can be open to intuitive inspiration and the messages that we're getting from spirit with our intuition. Another thing is, and I'm saying this very blatantly, is finances is a heavy thing here. And I mean, it makes sense because I feel for the entire collective, whatever it is that you guys are trying to do, whether it's a business or, you know, a creative project or just your life in general, is extremely, extremely important that there is a method to the madness, right? I can't stress enough the importance of the present moment, right? I can't stress the importance of the present moment and the need to be fully present so that we can take an honest assessment of our lives in the last month, the last year, in the last 10 years to see what it is that went awry, what didn't work out, and to get clear on what it is we want to do moving forward. Because I feel collectively the work that has been done or what it is that we've been trying to obtain for the last year or the last 10 years, and I can't say that for everyone, but just for those of you who feel like things have not panned out the way that you like, the way that you gain control over this situation is this marriage between, this is a funny way of saying it, but let's go with it. This marriage between earth and ether. So we're talking about utilizing all of your tools of creation, represented by the magician, you know, or, you know, in the tarot, the wands and the swords and the cups and the pentacles, is utilizing all of your tools of creation, having an intention and having a target, right? And the practical action steps in between. Because I feel collectively that's been missing. I feel at the heart of it, it's like the goal has always been the Nine of Pentacles and whatever that represents for each of you, whether it's financial security, personal security, confidence, whatever. It's like your epitome as a singularity, because I see the Nine of Pentacles as one's highest state as an individual, and I see the 10 as like you being the fullness of who you are and aligning with another person or other people outside of yourself. So thus that's full on abundance, you know? But I feel the goal has always been the same, to be one's highest version of themselves. But there needs to be a method to the madness. And a huge thing that I'm seeing here with the Six of Swords in reverse, the Six of Wands in reverse, and the Temperance in reverse, all of this is telling me the why. The main issue and problem starts in the mind. One has never been able to see a path forward, has felt hopeless about the future because it's one being trapped in their past. It's bringing baggage, and I'm saying this for the collective, it's bringing baggage from one's past via memories, regrets, resentment, unforgiveness, anger, what could have been, what should have been. Why did I get dealt this lot in life? This person said this about me, and now I think this about myself. Why am I not good enough? And all of this stuff. So even though life keeps on spinning, life keeps on going, things are shifting and changing around you all day long and have been your whole life, it's an inability to see that. And I feel for some, it could get so bad, and I feel like this is more or less a forewarning. For some, it could get so bad that you could spend so many years in your head feeling sorry for yourself that you one day wake up an old man or an old woman and realize that life has passed you by. Not that spirit has abandoned you. The fact that spirit has always been there guiding you, but being trapped in this mental prison of, you know, past disappointments and looking at things from that aspect, like that lower vibrational perception on life, it's prevented you from truly finding fulfillment and happiness. So it's more or less time to release yourself from your past and finally take the clean slate, not allow anything that you've experienced to define you, and now for you to redefine your life and redefine you and know that you have the power to do so. But yet again, this is all talking about how this is happening in the mind and what it is that's been holding us back a great deal overall, right? And I feel that changes your perception on, or your intentions on how or what it is that you're aiming to achieve and why you define success the way that you do, why it is that you put so much worth and value on external validation, right? Why you've aligned what your highest good is with what other people think your highest good is, or seeing that that's the reason why you felt unfulfilled in so many words or have lacked success, because it's the fact that one has been aspiring to another person's ideal, right? Another thing that's important to note here is what I talked about with balance, is looking at it like driving a car. In order to stay in your lane, it's minor adjustments that you're making in the present. So if we bring this down and anchor it a little bit and say this specifically with how it is that we gain dominion over our mental space, it's looking at your thoughts as you being the car on the interstate, right? In the two extremes, which are the two lanes where you could end up causing an accident, are low vibrational thoughts, right? So how do I gain dominion over my thoughts? Whenever my car, meaning my thoughts, start swaying over to the left, thinking all this negative stuff, I'm going to take my steering wheel and I'm going to go right back to the lane I'm supposed to be in, because we ain't thinking negative today. Nope, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? It's like, no, I'm not ugly. Nope, I can do this. Yes, I am good enough. And then if you're still driving, then all of a sudden your mind starts to sway over to the right. You're going to take that steering wheel and you're going to make it go right back in the center. It's like, nope, we're not thinking them negative things today. No, I'm not going to ruminate on the past. We're not doing that today, sir and or madam. Stand right here in my lane. So as long as you guys gain control that way in the present, right? Because we can't just say, I'm not going to think negative no more. Yes, that can be a goal. But how you not going to think negative no more? Today, right now, in the present with those minor adjustments, right? So as long as we're doing that, keeping our thought space in check, we have our goals in check of us working towards, and I say this, going into 2020, with the Nine of Pentacles being your ideal. That's clear intention, is your definition of success that's not bound by limitations of other people, limitations of past failures, or limitations of what it is that you think that you're capable of based on the past or other people's influences from your past. It's your idea looking forward, devoid of anything negative in the past or anything we've stumbled up on in the past, right? With mental balance, what it is that we're aspiring to that's in alignment with what will be 100% fulfilling for us, and creating a plan and taking the tangible action steps towards what this Ten of Cups is representing for us going forward. But making sure that we're open to spirit, that we're mastering ourselves, we're putting in all the effort. We're not allowing, when we're jilted, left out, disappointed, rejected, what have you, to take control over us, because we're always going back to the truth of who it is that we really are, which is a spirit person who is inherently perfect. I'm saying that in a soul sense, right? Prior to you getting in the body, that's having a human experience. So it's allowing our connection with spirit to be our light and to be our guide, and us using our mind to act on those things. So it's starting to pay more attention to the higher vibrational thoughts, the thoughts that bring you joy, the things that make you feel motivated, the things that make you smile, and spending more of our time in our head aligning with that, as opposed to the things that are the opposite of that. Because I feel up to this point, that's what it has been that we all have been doing. So that has been your full moon reading, my friends. Whew, I hope that made sense. That was a whole lot going on. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot to get out. So I love your freaking face. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys sooner than later. Deuces.